Hi, and welcome to my presentation for ESSC12003 Exercise and Sports Psychology. My name is Alex Bennett, and I'm here to talk with you about coaching strategies aimed at increasing intrinsic motivation in youth sport participants aged 12 to 17. Prior to developing a coaching strategy, it is essential to understand why increasing the intrinsic motivation in youth sport participants is important. A significant concern is the childhood obesity epidemic, an issue that has worsened substantially in the last few decades. According to Majeri in 2001, the percentage of overweight children in 1995 was 16%. Today, the Australian Bureau of Statistics National Health Survey in 2015 states that over 25% of children in Australia are overweight. To combat this growing issue, physical activity is proven to be an effective mechanism to protect children against overweight and obesity. A participation survey named AusPlay by the Australian Sports Commission in 2017 shows that 69% of children under the age of 15 participate in some form of sport outside of school hours. This figure climbs to 74% in adolescents aged 15 to 17, according to the 2014 ABS survey. Although these are positive statistics, the survey analysis went on to highlight that 1/3 of youth sport participants will drop out before or by the time they finished high school. A survey by Athletics Australia in 2017 highlighted the main three reasons why youth sport participants dropped out. These reasons were boredom, time, and little interest in pursuing the sport seriously. Although time is sometimes out of their control, a study by Coate in 2007 highlighted that the principal goal of youth sport is to provide intrinsically rewarding experiences. Thus, youth sport participants will maintain interest and therefore become more inclined to continue playing throughout their lives. In order to understand how to implement an appropriate coaching strategy, it's important to understand the different types of motivation. Firstly, the self-determination theory must be considered, which suggests that everyone has three inherent psychological needs. These three needs are autonomy, which is to feel in charge of one's actions; competence, which is explained as everybody wants the ability to perform the task adequately and control the outcome; and lastly, relatedness, which refers to the need of feeling included. According to this theory, these three needs are innate and universal, meaning everyone has them, regarding of individual differences. These three needs play into motivation in a sense that people want to feel positive related to these needs, thus they will be motivated. After these three needs, the self-determination theory is then broken up into two parts, intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation can be defined as behavior that is driven by external rewards that arise from outside the individual. This type of motivation is broken down further into four subcategories, consisting of internal regulation, introjected regulation, identification, and integrated regulation. Those who are motivated by external regulation are typically motivated by external rewards such as money, fame, or winning. Individuals motivated by introjected regulation will exhibit behavior that aims to demonstrate self-worth. Although perceived as internal, this type of motivation is said to not come from inside one's self, as external factors influence behavior. Introjected regulation refers to doing something in order to maintain self-esteem or pride to avoid guilt or anxiety. Identification involves the person being motivated only by a goal, so that said action is personally important to the individual. Lastly, people who are motivated by integrated regulation share qualities of intrinsic motivation, as individuals will focus on their personal needs. On the other hand is intrinsic motivation, which is defined by Ryan and Decky in 2000 as the doing of an activity for its inherent satisfactions rather than for some separable consequence. There is also a further type of motivation named amotivation, which is the state of lacking the intention to act due to the person not valuing the activity. Ryan and Decky also state that when someone is intrinsically motivated, they move to act for the fun or challenge entailed rather than because of the external products, pressures, or rewards. This definition, relative to the topic question, is imperative to consider, as continuing to play the sport from childhood through to adolescence is often based on the child's psychological needs being met. Because of this, a coach must be aware of intrinsic motivation, as specific training strategies relative to this can have a positive impact on not only team success, but also the satisfaction of the individual. With relatively high youth sport participation numbers, it's important to understand what motivates children to participate in sport so that they continue to do so throughout their later years. Biddle in 2000 states that if we want to encourage youth's persistence in sport and physical activity participation, the application of theoretical models is necessary in order to understand how their motivation works. A popular theory is the achievement goal theory by Nichols in 1989, which elucidates that the basic motive in individuals is to demonstrate their competence or achievement. This can be further broken down into either task orientation or ego orientation. Task orientation is mostly concerned with self-learning and personal improvement, whilst ego orientation involves the comparison of oneself with others. This means that the person who is ego-orientated will experience subjective success in relation to how the person feels they performed relative to others. These different orientations play an instrumental role in an individual's motivation and behaviour. To support this theory, a study by White and Data in 1994 found that youth sport participants at a higher skill level were more ego-orientated, meaning these individuals would benefit more from extrinsic motivation. In contrast, it was found that task-orientated participants were more concerned with social constructs such as team affiliation and recognition, thus leaning more towards intrinsic motivation. With reference to a coaching strategy, these factors are important to consider, as each child will observe situations differently relative to their own motivation and require individual needs to be met. Coaches can play an influential role regarding the experiences of youth sport participants as their behaviours, standards, and goals contribute to the motivational climate and to the developmental benefits attained by the participating youth. In order to promote intrinsic motivation among youth participants, a coach should endeavour to apply an autonomous environment as best as possible. Autonomy is an element of the motivational client, derived from the self-determination theory. As detailed by Ryan and Decky in 2002, autonomy support may be a significant addition to the coaching training, as it has the ability to apply direct influence by coaches on youth, as well as have positive effects on motivation and youth development through sport. A study by Coatswell in 2009 assessed 119 youth sport participants aged 10 to 18 and tested the effects of autonomy-supported coaching. The findings suggested that the quality of the coaching climate is an important predictor of the developmental benefits of sport participation. Furthermore, these findings suggested that the autonomy-supported behaviours may be a vital aspect of coaching, because of the coach's role to potentially start important processes into motion that culminate in positive youth outcomes. Lastly, the results also indicated that coach training programs that are intended to promote positive youth outcomes are likely to benefit from focusing on autonomy-based coaching strategies, as this has proven to help facilitate self-determined or intrinsic motivation. The personality traits and how a coach is perceived is imperative in youth participants feeling comfortable when playing sport. Although the coaching strategy itself is key, the personality traits and how a coach is perceived are imperative in youth participants feeling comfortable when playing sport. Coaches can influence athletes' experiences and self-perceptions through their direct interactions with their athletes, as well as through the broader motivational climate they create in a sport context. Because of this, a cognitive behavioural approach to coaching can be applied along with the autonomy-supported environment, named the Coach Effectiveness Training, or CET. The CET program was created by psychologists Smith, Small and Curtis in 1979, aiming to show youth sport coaches how to create a positive and supportive experience for their youth athletes. A study by Losch in 2016 compared the CET coaching style against traditional coaching styles relative to 84 youth participants. The study showed that transactional and transformational leadership behaviour influenced participants' perceived autonomy, support and intrinsic motivation, resulting in beneficial coaching outcomes. A key facet of CET is positive recognition and feedback, which is proven to aid in facilitating a positive response from learners. Thus, with reference to mentioned studies, it can be suggested that the implication of coach effectiveness training regime and autonomy supportive coaching can have a positive implication on youth sport participants. As both autonomy support and CET are perceived to be influential coaching methods when directing at youth sport participants, it is also important to round off these methods with positive recognition and feedback so that participants feel valued and motivated. A study by Murata Titters in 2008 assessed the motivating role of positive competence feedback on participants' well-being, performance, and intention to participate in middle school students. In Study 1, feedback positively predicted competence satisfaction, which in turn predicted higher levels of vitality and greater intentions to participate. Through the mediation of autonomous motivation, these results align with the previous studies mentioned, as providing a positive environment for youth participants seems to be an important factor in increasing likelihood for participation. Coaches can play an influential role in the participation of youth sport participants, due to their coaching style and personality. With consideration of autonomy supportive coaching, coach effectiveness training, and positive feedback, coaches can be well equipped to heighten the intrinsic motivation of youth sport participants and continue participating sport in the future. In saying this, coaches who facilitate the mentioned coaching methods can positively influence youth sport participants through increasing their intrinsic motivation, and therefore intensify their want to participate in sport now and throughout adulthood.